Tonight's lesson is about the power of beauty. Um, all of you have given us like some really good examples of your encounter with beauty, and underlying that encounter, something happens to you. Like it literally happens to you. You change, you're moved, you're transformed. You want to change your orientation, your mindset, your attitude, your view of the world. Right? You're like displaced in a way. You know what displacement is, right? Like when you put something here and then it moves you somewhere else. Beauty does that to you. I will connect that with God, though. But I have like 20 effects of beauty. It's a little rough, okay? So I'm sorry. Nobody else has ever done this. Like this is my research for my dissertation. Most people probably don't want to write this because it's not real or true or it's hard to prove. But I'll give it to you anyways, and you can tell me if it's good. At the heart of this retreat, I kind of want to ask one major question. Like, why should you desire God at all? Right? I'm sure you've heard of evangelism, of like missions. Christians do these things, right? And they have a message to say. What is that message? And why is it persuasive? Why is it attractive? Why is it worth following? I think one of the hardest questions that I can ever ask you is, why follow Christ at all? Have you ever sat down and pondered that? Like, why am I doing this? Is it worth it? You don't have to answer this. I wouldn't put you on the spot. But this is a really hard question to answer. My guess is that most of us follow God. We follow Jesus because God is love, right? You've heard of that, right? God is love. It's not that God has love, it's that God is love, right? Totally different. It's like a different order. But why is God love? Like, what about the supreme being makes God love, right? I will tell you this. I think it's because God is always the gift of self-offering to the beloved other. Like, if you were to profile God, this is who God is in his person. He gives the gift of himself to others. The Father does it to the Son, the Father does it to the Spirit, and the three give it to us. Give it to creation, to creatures. I don't know if that's attractive to you. But think about it like this. There is nothing more beautiful than a person giving the gift of themselves to another. It happens between husbands and wives, between parents and children, between friend to friend. And there's kind of like an epitome, right? The most beautiful thing that can ever be is a person laying down their life for another. Would you agree that that's like, I think it's the most beautiful, but do you think that's beautiful? It doesn't have to be the most, but that kind of a gift of my life for yours, that's awesome. That's something that's persuasive. That's a very attractive thing. I mean, every romance book, every action hero movie, every story and every narrative that we tell ourselves has an element of what love looks like. Love is the gift of myself to another. And that's who I think God is. And God demonstrates it all the time. We exist because God gave us his existence. We have being because God gave us his being, right? So the question is, what does beauty do to us? What is its effect on us? Okay, so I'm going to try to end this by like 9. So I'm going to like machine gun it out. And if you don't like it, if you don't like what I have to say, then that's cool too. But if you have questions, if you have like, well, Joey, I think that's sketchy, let me know, because I'm still in draft mode of my dissertation, right? I think beauty enhances life. Whatever else you say, beauty makes life better, right? Can you imagine living in a world without beauty? Everything's gray, everything's monotone, everything's dusty. There's no life, there's no delight, there's no joy. Could you live in such a world? All work, no play? Who would want that kind of a life, right? Beauty enhances your life. And it also grounds your humanity. Get this. Get this. Humans have a right to beauty. Have you ever seen like on mission trips or in certain cities, like the area of the city where it's like the ghetto, the slum, it's dirty, it's broken down, nobody cares about the road, nobody cares about the people, people are starving and hungry. It ain't right, right? They don't have, it is not right that they live in ugliness and in deterioration and corruption. Every human being has a right to beauty. And if you take beauty away from them, you're actually defacing them. You're disfiguring their humanity. Without beauty, you're actually somehow less human. That's why they call it dehumanizing. When you take away their ability to experience beauty. Our sense of being, our sense of well-being is diminished when you withhold beauty. So beauty grounds your humanity. If you don't have beauty in your life, you start to be less human. Beauty communicates the giftedness of a thing or a person. I mean, I see it with kids all the time. Like sometimes I just wonder, like, wow, how do you exist? You're awesome. We realize that we are so not in control of our world. You agree? We're not in control of anything. And the fact that we have anything good in our lives, that's a gift. It's a blessing. It's a miracle. Something that we can only be thankful of and be appreciative of, right? So beauty helps us to realize how much of a gift this person is. My wife, Esther, she's amazing, right? I constantly tell her, what would I do without you? Because it's true, like I would be half of a person. And we've only been married for 4 years. But I see her beauty when I recognize how much of a gift she is to me. You know? And that happens to you all the time, in your friendships, in your relationships, and parents and friends. Here's another one. Beauty decenters us. It's not a real word, but decenter is, I think that I'm in the center of the universe, right? Most of us operate that way, where we think the whole world revolves around us. But when you experience something beautiful, for just 2 seconds, you are decentered. You're removed from the center of the universe. What happens? It's not that we cease to stand at the center of the world. We never stood in the center of the world. We made ourselves the center, but you were never the center of the world. It is that we cease to stand even at the center of our own world. We actually willingly cede, give up, surrender our ground to the thing that stands before us. Like Mariah, you saw the person dancing, right, on stage. For those minutes that she was dancing, did you have any thought to yourself, man, what am I going to eat for breakfast tomorrow? Or like, oh, what do I have to study for, right? Like, the center of you is gone, and for a moment you're focused on someone other than yourself. That's an amazing thing. That's what beauty does to you. Beauty decenters you. It, in a sense, it unselfs you. Whatever you have, we're like gravity, right? We pull everything in towards our narrow narcissism. Do you know what narcissism is? Yeah. Like selfishness, self-entitlement. We think we're the bomb. What? Self-centeredness. That's a good one. Self-centeredness. So beauty kind of knocks us out of that weird gravitational pull, and it allows us to notice someone else, to open ourselves up to the other person or the other thing. I like how this guy describes it. Caught in the sudden grip of beauty, we are momentarily unconcerned with ourselves or defending our ego. Cast to the side by beauty's radiance, we are no longer the heroic protagonist of our own story, but a minor character standing with the rest of humanity's throng. Beauty dethrones us and renders us as one of the crowd. Last night, some of you guys were like laying on the table looking at the stars, right? And maybe you had a thought, wow, the stars are so beautiful, the galaxies are so beautiful, the night sky is so beautiful. Did you have that passing thought? Yeah, right? Did you ever think to yourself, why are the stars there?
That's all we're talking about.
Yeah. The shorter answer is that God didn't put them there for you. That's a crazy thought, right? We're very human-centric, egocentric. We think that everything is here for us. No, in fact, I think the stars shine their brilliant radiance. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who the audience is, whoever who sees it. They just do it. There's a ton of stuff in the world where they display glory and beauty for their own sake, for God's sake, and not for you. You're just lucky to be a bystander, to notice that there's something beautiful happening. Isn't that crazy? That you're not the center of the universe? You're a spectator. You're a invited guest to come and experience what God's doing. And the crazy thing is that when we experience the beautiful, it knocks us out of our egotism, and we're okay with it. Right? Like, if you're like busy doing your thing and you're all self-centered, and I took your glory, I took your spotlight, you'd be like, hey, why'd you take my spotlight? Right? But when beauty does it, we don't mind. Oh, okay. Keep doing what you're doing. I like seeing beautiful things, doing their work. So we experience this unselfing, it's somewhat joyfully, experiencing it not so much as an unwanted demotion, like we're constantly promoting ourselves. We actually get demoted when we experience the beautiful. But we experience it as something sweet and pleasant. Beauty is unique because it's able to displace and please us simultaneously. Yeah. All right. Beauty inspires wonder and sharing. So, you're all adults, right? Except for you, right? When you have two people love each other, you get together, you start to create, procreate, multiply things, right? Babies. When we encounter beauty, we can't help but to be in awe and in wonder of it, and to share it with other people. God's a creator. We're many creators. God's an artist. We're artists. God creates beauty. We want to create beauty. How often have you heard like an amazing song and then kept it to yourself? Right? No, I'd be like, Esther, I heard this sick beat. Look, and I'd play it for her. Or how many of you like have eaten at a good restaurant and then told no one about it? Right? It's just weird. If you encounter something amazing, you want to share it. You want to produce more of it. Like, okay, I'm talking to you, Mariah, again, sorry. You saw somebody do some amazing dance stuff. You were struck by the wonder of it, and then now you wanted to dance yourself. That's what beauty does. Beauty also shapes what we love. Okay, let me ask you this. How many of you have tried to change yourself, like New Year's resolutions, right? You said, I'm going to be different. And in your head, you told yourself, I'm going to do different. And then you didn't do any different. Yeah? Like raise your hands? Yeah? Everybody, right? Or let's talk about like, the church sense. You come back from chick. You come back from your chick retreat conference, and you're like, I'm gonna live holy for God. And then like 2 days later, you are like very unholy. Have you ever done that? I've done that all the time. We tell ourselves that we're going to change our thinking that our thinking will change our actions. But we're not actually what we believe. We're actually what we love. This is crazy profound for me. Because you can have the right beliefs and still act wrongly. Would you agree? I think most of you probably believe in the right things, but still act wrongly. So what's the problem? It's because your beliefs don't actually shape your behavior. It's your loves, your desires that shape your behaviors. You are only driven to do what you want because you want the good, whatever that thought of good is. Like, your desires drive your actions. And the crazy thing is this, your desires are shaped by habitual action. right? So for me, I eat lots of cookies. I go to the kitchen, I open the cupboard, I pull out the cookies, and I enjoy the cookie, right? And I do that every day. And guess what happens to me when I do that every day? I get really fat. It's a pretty simple principle, right? But if I change my desires, if I said to myself, like, I love kale, and you start developing a love for, and a passion for kale because kale is so amazing, your actions would change, right? So it depends what you think is beautiful. Some people love kale, man. Some people love chard. Chard is beautiful to them, and it shapes what they love. I know. I think they're crazy. Are you?
I like those, but they're not compared to cookies. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't replace
This is
the other.
It's a bad example, but good. I think another thing that the power, the effect of beauty is that falling in love is the result of beauty. My perspective is that the Holy Spirit creates beauty in nature, creates beauty in culture, and beauty in conscience, beauty in your imagination, beauty in people, in order so that you can learn to fall in love with the thing, the gift, in order for you to fall in love with the giver of that gift. Does that make sense? Beauty points us to God. We already talked about it in the first session and this morning, so you get that. I think you understand this too. Okay, here's a good one. Beauty helps us to appreciate a thing's uniqueness and particularity. I've talked about this before, right? Like, you have being. God gave you His being to you, right? And you glorify God in a special way. You express God's being. You articulate, you perform, you display God's being in a unique way. But God's not a singularity. We don't believe in a one-person God. If God was only one person, He'd be pretty selfish, wrapped up in Himself. God's not a dyad either. Two people. If you have two people, God would be cliquish, just wrapped up in each other, and that's it. God's actually a triunity, meaning that one cares about the other, cares about the other, cares about the other. There's a constant, eternal, infinite reaching out, an embrace of the other. God's constantly giving Himself and receiving Himself with delight. So what does that mean? It means that God makes the other possible. There would be no other if God wasn't a Trinity. This means that otherness is important. This also means that homogeneity is not good. Trying to make everybody the same blandness, the same kind of cookie cutter, it's not good. If we want to be loving like God, we actually have to be accepting of other people. We actually have to value them for who they are. We actually have to appreciate and respect other people, because that's what the Trinity means for us. Do you have any questions about that? It's kind of wild stuff, right? Beauty demands disinterest. Have you ever heard this saying that art has no value but itself? It's a contradiction, because art, especially in museums, are worth like millions of dollars. So of course it has value. But there's a movement in art that says that art has no value but itself. Like, you can't put a price on it. It has intrinsic value. Not for how it can benefit you, not how it can advantage you, not how it can give you a profit. You're supposed to have disinterest in it. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to be uninterested in it. Rather, it's that you should you should be less interested in yourself and more interested in that thing, that beautiful object, or that beautiful person, right? So this is what beauty does for you. Beauty makes you care less about yourself so you can care more about other people. Beauty actually makes you selfless. It also liberates you from utility and acquisition. This is going to be hard, but how many of you love shopping? Yeah, shopping. How many of you love power? The ability to do whatever you want. Yeah.
You said that way.
Huh?
When you say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we love utility and acquisition. Marco, you can verify this or not, but pastors are most notorious for not taking Sabbath. Right? We don't rest. You know why? Because if we rest, the world will fall apart. Yeah. The world will literally crumble if we don't go in there and chip in our labor, you know?
Not like that narcissism thing you're talking about.
Yeah, pastors have Messiah complexes. But I don't think the people who are not pastors are very different. I think all of us are constantly driven by this need to acquire, to gain, to profit, to be efficient, to be productive, right? But beauty, it messes up all that. Some of the most important things in your life that give you the most meaning actually don't give you any money. It doesn't gain you more power. You in fact lose it. Playing with your kids, watching a movie with your loved one, playing board games. You know, if I was a purely practical person, I would never play board games because it doesn't benefit me anything, right? Some of our friendships, some of our relationships are most valuable because they're not profitable. It gets our focus off of acquiring things and just being ourselves and being in relationship with others. That's what beauty does for us. I think we're very close to the end. Beauty demands it demands an appreciation for the other without possession. The possession is a real important part of it. We're supposed to learn how to love beautiful things without trying to grab it and to possess it and to make it our own, to control it, without manipulating or leveraging it. We're supposed to just let it be. Let it shine its radiance. Let it enjoy its presence, bask in its glory, and just recognize that this is God's gift to you. That's what beauty should do to us. Okay, this is the last one before I tell you a story. Beauty begins and sustains the process of union with God. This morning I told you that our ultimate purpose is to be one with God. Yeah? Remember that? We would never start that process if we didn't think God was beautiful. If we didn't think that God was desirable and attractive and worthwhile. If we didn't take joy or pleasure and delight in it. Right? So the first thing we have to do is to recognize that God is beautiful. And once you do that, then the process of unifying, with becoming one with God begins. That's actually true with humans. Like, I would never befriend you if I didn't think you're beautiful or worthwhile or charming, you know? I'd never make a new friend. I'd never enter into a relationship if I didn't think that person was worth it. So beauty gives us the ability to do that. Okay, here's a story about the Cellist of Sarajevo. How do you say that? Sarajevo? That J throws me off. Sarajevo. Have you heard of this guy before? Yeah. There was a war with people shooting at each other constantly for a long time. So this is the story of a musician and what he did during this wartime. This is through my laptop. So this is the song that he played. So let me read it out to you. So on May 28, 1992, the principal cellist in the Sarajevo Upper dressed in his formal black tails and sat down in a fire-scorched chair in a bomb crater to play this song, Albinoni's Adagio in G minor. The site was outside a bakery in the neighborhood where 22 people were waiting in line for bread had been killed the previous day. So there's casualty in this war, right? People are dying. How do you stop a war? How do you stop people from killing each other? So, known as the Cellist of Sarajevo, Smajlovic not only performed outside the bakery, but continued to unleash the beauty of his music in graveyards, at funerals, in the rubble of buildings, and in the sniper-infested streets. He says, "I never stopped playing music throughout the siege. My weapon was the cello." Although completely vulnerable, Smajlovic was never shot. It was as if the beauty of his presence repelled the violence of war. His music created an oasis from the horror. It offered hope to the people of Sarajevo and a vision of beauty to the soldiers who were destroying the city. A reporter asked him if he was crazy for playing in a war zone. Smajlovic replied, "Why don't you ask if they're crazy for shelling Sarajevo?" So, there's a sense where beauty is useless, right? It doesn't give you money or power, or it doesn't help you acquire things. But it gives your life meaning. It connects you to life and humanity. It points to something true. It has the ability to bring you to the very presence of God. And God's given you the gift to create beauty, to stand up for life and light. So, I hope that you can find some healing through this. Whatever pain or suffering you're going through, beauty can be a medicine for your soul. Obviously, you need bread to live, but you also need beauty to make life worth living. So, we're going to do another session of worship, and we're going to invite you to, connect to God again, right? To remember how you've encountered Him through beauty. It doesn't even have to be a religious thing. When God meets you through beauty, that's Him. He's behind it. All beautiful things have their source in the beautiful one. So when we worship through this, try to forget yourself. Try to let God decenter you, right? So that you can learn to be aware of the other, the gift of the other, especially God. And prepare your heart, prepare yourself to be able to pray and to ascribe worth to Him. I'll pray a quick one and then we can go into it. God, we are so taken aback and in awe of who You are and what You've done for our lives, and pray that tonight You'd accept the fragrance of our worship, because You're worthy. In Jesus' name, amen.